Star Wars is back on the big screen with The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Gangsters, war criminals. I'll take out every bad guy in your deck of cards.
On May 22nd, feel the Force on the biggest screen possible.
The old protect the young, and the young protect the old. This is the way.
Buckle up.
Always wear your seatbelt.
The Mandalorian and Grogu. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters May 22nd. Get tickets now.
Whether it's a movie night or just midday, Skinny Pop is a salty snack that keeps on giving. Made with just 3 simple ingredients for an irresistibly delicious taste and a large serving size that lasts. Deliciously popped, perfectly salted. Skinny Pop, popular for a reason. Shop Skinny Pop now.
Welcome to Away, the podcast. It's Martin here, and we've got a very special edition of the show for you today because we are delighted to be joined by a genuine Sunderland cult hero. Our guest today played 192 times for the club between 1976 and 1982 and quickly became a favourite of the Roker Park crowd. He started his career at Bolton, playing alongside the likes of Peter Reid and Sam Allardyce, before being signed for Sunderland and given the rather big task of replacing a club legend in Jimmy Montgomery. We are, of course, delighted to be joined today by Barry Siddall. Good morning, Barry, and thank you for joining.
Good morning. Good morning to you. Yeah, you're very welcome.
And how are you keeping, Barry, these days?
Yeah, fine. Playing a lot of golf, trying to keep fit that way, and go to a lot of national hunt meetings, horse racing. So got plenty of things to do.
Excellent. Well, we will get stuck into your career and your Sunderland career in particular, but we've also got a chap who saw a lot of Barry's games for Sunderland, Kelvin Beattie. Good morning, Kelvin.
Oh, good morning, Martin. Boy, am I excited about this one.
Yeah, Kelvin's gotten to great lengths. I think we need to let the listeners know there. Kelvin's gotten to great lengths to be available for today's podcast, so we do appreciate that, and he's got, as everyone knows who's listened to the podcast before, he's got some great memories of the 70s and 80s around Sunderland. So we'll bow to his knowledge on occasion. But Barry, you started your career at Bolton, and there was so many big. When I was looking back through that time at Bolton, there was so many big names around the club at the time. How did you end up getting to Bolton?
I was very lucky, really, because at school, grammar school especially, we had such a good football team. There was a lot of scouts came to watch. Neil Watmore was in the side, who went to Bolton as well. 2 lads joined Bolton as apprentices, but didn't make the grade. So obviously we had a good side, and I could have signed for Bolton, Everton, which was my club, Man United or Man City. Now, the best thing that ever happened to me, I might not have been playing for Sunderland if my mum hadn't insisted I joined Bolton. The only reason being, because she didn't know a great lot of football, the scout, when he was in our area watching a match at night, used to pop in for a coffee and then go home to Northwich. So my mum liked him, so I joined Bolton. So got in the side at 17 in goal. If I'd have joined any of the other 3 clubs, I'd have been, 6th choice. So no way, I might not have even made the grade, because as you know, it's opportunity, being in the right place at the right time. And that's what happened to me at Bolton. So, like I said, I got in at 17, and I was didn't miss a game till I joined Sunderland in 76.
And who was the manager when you signed for Bolton? Was Nat Lofthouse still in charge?
Nat Lofthouse. When I was at school, it was Nat Lofthouse. And then when I joined as an apprentice, it was still Nat. And then when I signed pro, it was Jimmy Armfield.
You're talking about 2 greats of the game there, aren't you? And Nat Lofthouse and Jimmy Armfield, mind.
Just a bit. And it was, to be fair, they were both really nice fellas. I mean, you think with Nat, you've seen him play barging keepers into the back of the net, but he was the nicest man you could ever meet. And Jimmy was the same. Jimmy was a lovely man. But then my experience of managers went downhill from there to the end of my career, really.
Was that steady downhill, or did they have
Uh,
some ups and downs along?
no, there were a couple of uphills and then downhills, and then one good one when I was at Hartlepool I helped them out for probably 7 or 8 months. Pop Robson was number 2, was Cyril Knowles, I thought was a brilliant manager.
Yeah.
I was only with him for a short period because I'd got paid up at Stockport because I had a bit of a problem with Danny Bergara, who didn't. But there we go.
We'll have to dig into a little bit more of that later, won't we, Kelvin? But say Jimmy Armfield's somebody who I grew up listening to on the radio. He was obviously a radio commentator, and everybody knew his voice listening
That's
to
right.
football on Radio 5 and Radio 2, didn't they? But he was obviously a huge England international. Bolton manager did a great job there. Took over from Brian Clough after Brian Clough had took over from Don Revie at Leeds as well, didn't he? So he must have been somebody, I don't think you could have probably got a better person to come into the first team under.
No, he knew the game inside out. He wasn't one of those managers who jump off the bench shouting at you, and he was constructive in everything he said and did. And I think that's why we had so many good players came to Bolton at the time. Tony Dunn, left back from Man United, Peter Thompson from Liverpool, Roger Hunt from Liverpool, Willie Morgan from Man United. So we got the side I started off playing in, fantastic. And the best centre half I've ever played behind was Paul Jones, who was alongside. He started off alongside Warwick Rimmer, who was near the end of his career, and then Sam Allardyce took over from Warwick. But Paul Jones was awesome. He could have gone to Liverpool, but he just wanted to stay at Bolton.
I always thought Paul Jones was a really good centre half as well, Barry. He coveted him for a couple of years, I have to say. Aye, a really good player. And that's some roll call of wingers you've got there, by the way, Peter Thompson and Willie Morgan.
Yeah, it was, you watch them in training and you learn from them, because I was only like 17. I mean, when I first joined the club, I did, I was boot boy for Roger Hunt and Gordon Taylor from the PFA. Gordon was a feisty bugger, but Roger Hunt was a nice man. Roger Hunt was a nice, if he didn't do his boots right, he'd say, "Oh, just you need to do them a bit better next time." Where Gordon Taylor and chuck them back at you, So that was the difference between the two of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I hadn't realised that you'd played with Neil Watmore at school as well. He was another player I always coveted. I always thought if we could get him, and there was another lad that he played with, wasn't there? Jones.
Gary Jones.
Gary Jones, yeah, him and Watmore and Jones.
Yeah,
I always thought they would trouble me. They were good.
They were good, yeah. Gary passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, but he was a good player too. We had a lot of good players at Bolton.
Yeah.
The 3 years after I'd made my debut in the 3rd division, then we went up that year. After that, the 3 seasons after that, we failed to go up twice on the last day of the season.
Oh, really?
And and it was like so sickening. We beat Wrexham away 2-1 and thought great chance. And then I think it was Norwich went up that year. It was sickening when you played well all year and you lose in the last game. And then it happened to me at Sunderland with losing at Everton last game to go down.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought,
come on to that one, Barry.
I thought I'm in the wrong sport here. I think,
As you say, getting your debut so young and being a regular in that team, you had an incredible amount of appearances by the time you actually came to sign for Sunderland. You were still a young goalkeeper. But there was obviously 2 big Sunderland connections that you played with at Bolton, in Peter Reid and Sam Allardyce, who we already mentioned. Did you kind of spot their managerial potential as young players, or Or was
Do
it
you
not
know,
everything at that point?
that's a good question. So, because people ask me what Sam was like, because we palled around together, and out of probably half a dozen Bolton players, he'd have been the least I'd have thought would make a
Oh,
manager.
really?
Because as a 17-year-old, he was like me. He was daft as a brush, and I thought Peter Reid would have a chance. He was more sensible, and you know, but he learned the game. I think a lot. Where me and Sam just played football really,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
thought there's no way Sam will be a manager. But what a job he did at Bolton, unbelievable.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
excellent jobs at a number of places, hasn't he, Sam?
Because I remember talking to him,
Dear.
because he's still like we sort of went on different sort of angles when I obviously met up again with him at Sunderland. We went on different angles that when he went into management, and like Peter Nicholson, who was at Bolton, said to me when I met him about playing golf, it's a different thing that Sam's like earning mega money. He said we don't sort of pal around like we used to.
Yeah.
But Sam was very underrated as a player, because there's that many good players around him. But on his day, he could play. Don't worry about that. He could head the ball further than most people could kick it.
He scored a couple of good goals for us.
It's-
Sorry, for Bolton against us.
He did
scored a-
down that. Yeah, down that end. Yeah, Jim was in goal that day. I was up the other end. Yeah, yeah.
Aye. And he scored in a game. I well remember a game round about the Christmas time where in the 70s, I think it was the 75-76 season, coming down to Burnden Park at Christmas time, and we were top, and Bolton were I think you might have been second or third. You were in goals, and Sam. Yeah, actually, Bolton scored all the goals that day. It was 2-1, and Sam Allardyce scored a cracking goal that day as well. A muckle header. I think it might have been the one that won the game, if memory serves me well. That was a cracking day. A massive crowd in the ground as well. There'd be over 40,000. It was raucous that day. Really good game that, despite losing it. I felt like we'd taken part in a really good game that day.
So, Barry, the first encounter you had with Sunderland, as far as I can work out, was in the 73-74 season. And you came up to Roker Park as a Bolton player. And Sunderland won 3-0 in November. And then this was a game at Burnden Park a few weeks later, and you beat Sunderland 1-0. But Sunderland obviously won the FA Cup in 73, which was huge news. And it's not the same as today where you can see every game and every player and all that sort of stuff. So how was that coming to Roker Park for the first time? What do you remember about that game?
I was, I think the two grounds, the fans are unbelievable. Man United, mainly because of the side they had in those days, but Sunderland as well. And the noise that day, especially up the Sunderland end, it's incredible. It's I always judge supporters on clubs on supporters on how many travel, and Sunderland, unbelievable how many travel away from home. But with it being compact as well, Roker Park, it was. I don't think it would be a good place to go for away teams.
No. So, well, I think it could swing
Hey,
both ways, Kelvin, couldn't sometimes if
Oh.
if there's a good crowd and everything's going well.
You always got a warm welcome at Burnden Park, that was for sure.
And
Yeah.
the other game, I think, and Kelvin, you've talked about this recently on one of the podcasts, was the game against Bolton at Sunderland where we won 2-1 to clinch promotion. And obviously Barry was in goal for Bolton that day. And Big Sam, I think, scored for Bolton as well, didn't he?
He did score that day as well. So that was some game that sticks in my memory. You know, it definitely in my top 5 of games at Roker Park. It actually was the last 50,000 crowd at Roker Park, that game. And I thought, I mean, Bolton turned up to play that day. They went rolling over and lying down because they were still in the promotion hunt that day. And you know, my memory of the first sort of quarter of an hour was, whoa, we're going to struggle here, because they were right on it from back to front. Because I think, Barry, you made a couple of canny saves in the first sort of 20 minutes of that game, but we won it at the finish, thank God. We won it at the finish, but no, it was a cracking game. Another cracking game, because the one at Christmas at Burnden Park had been really good, a really good game as well. I think the two teams were quite evenly matched. I thought in that season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think unlike today, I think when we travelled playing for Bolton, it didn't bother us playing away from home. Where now teams go away and the bit trepidation because they're away from home. In those days, it was another game of football. We just took the game. We had that many good attacking players at Bolton. We just took the game to the opposition. That's it. That's the way to do it for me. I don't this modern day keeping the ball at the back. No, that's not for me. No.
Yeah. All out attack. Yeah. Well, when you've got Peter Thompson and Willie Morgan on your wings, I guess. You can do that.
No, a good story at Bolton when Ian Greaves joined. He said in a meeting, he said, "Right, Barry, when you get the ball, you can throw it out to John Ritson, the right back. You can throw it out to Tony Dunn. You can roll it out to Paul Jones and tell him to turn. But if you throw it to Sam, throw it on his head." I'll never forget that. And Sam, in the meeting, Sam said, "Boss, I can play a bit, you know." He went, just a bit, you know. Brilliant. Throw it on his head. Brilliant, that.
Excellent.
Nice one. And that was Ian Greaves, was it?
Oh, he was a tough man, was Greavesy.
Yeah.
He was the one. This is the best. I'm not swear on this podcast, but we weren't allowed to play golf on a Thursday or Friday for a game. Well, at Dunsker, there was a dirt track down to about the 16th hole. And I was playing golf on a Thursday, and I saw this car coming up. It was George Mullall, who played for Sunderland. George was his assistant, Ian Greaves' assistant. So I hid. So I come in next morning, George Mullall says, "Gaffer wants you." I went, "Oh no, I'm going to get fined here." Went in, Greavesy went, "It's not about playing golf yesterday." And as I come in the door, he chucked my boots at me. And he said, "Drive up to Sunderland. They've bid 90 grand for you, and don't bloody come back." And unknown to me, he'd mean 90,000 to Bolton in those days was a lot of money. But unknown to me, he'd got Jim McDonough on a free transfer lined up.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim nearly lost his life that year, and he had an operation in hospital, and he was very close to dying of it. And he got over it, so he'd already got him lined up. So I drove up there. I knew I wasn't coming back to play for Bolton because I wouldn't have been. He'd have put Jim in the side, and me, you know. So when I met Bob Stokoe, it took me 5 minutes to sign, basically. So I've sort of got a little bit more money than I was on at Bolton. About three times as much.
Yeah,
you know. I actually took his pen out of his top pocket and signed the contract within 5 minutes, and then drove back to Bolton virtually straight away. You know, got me stuff and come back up. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, That's a really good place to take a very short break, and we'll be back after a couple of ads to start your career at Sunderland. We'll be back very soon.
LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot make your email response time faster. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you find space for your 3 desk drinks. Why do you have 3? And while we can't help you find the perfect volume for your presentation video, LinkedIn can help you find the perfect audience for your business. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/smallbusiness.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Welcome back to How We're the podcast. And before we get back to Barry, I wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you in association with NordVPN. Now, if you don't know much about NordVPN, I'll give you the lowdown now. NordVPN helps keep you safe online by doing a whole host of things, including scanning downloads for malware, alerting you about leaked credentials on the dark web, and detecting malicious sites, and loads more. It also makes sure that you can access all of the subscription services you pay for when you're overseas, and you can use one account on up to 10 devices. The best bit is it's incredibly easy to set up. So if you're interested in trying NordVPN, we've negotiated a great deal for you. So to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Hawaii. Our link will not only get you an exclusive discount, you'll also get an extra 4 months absolutely free on the 2-year plan. And don't forget, NordVPN offers a 30-day money-back guarantee too, so there's absolutely no risk. You'll find the link in the show notes for today's show, but it's dead easy to remember. nordvpn.com/Hawaii. So Barry, you left us before the break, and you've grabbed this pen out of Bob Stokoe's pocket and signed the contract, and that was that. But what did Bob Stokoe say to you? Because this is, 3 years after the cup final. Yeah. Jimmy Montgomery's made headlines across the world for his famous double save. He's still a regular in the team. You're a young lad who's played, I think, 137 games for Bolton at that point. So what did he say to you? Were you coming in as first choice? Were you coming in to challenge Monty? Like, how did he pitch it to you?
He just said to me, he said, I watched you, we played 3 games against Newcastle for Bolton in the cup. We drew at Bolton 3 apiece. Then we drew 0-0 after extra time at St James's Park. And it was a midweek match. It was on telly. Although it's saying itself, I'd had a worldie. No, they weren't going to score that night. And then in those days, the second replay was at a neutral venue, and we lost 2-1 at Ellen Road to Newcastle. But I played well in all 3 games, and I think that's why, he said to me, I'd watched you play against Newcastle. He said, come in, but he never once mentioned, all he was saying was, these are the terms. We want you to come to the club. Never said you'll be number 1. And I didn't ever expect it to be. I just thought it was a good time for me to move. And obviously the money was a factor as well. And I was a cocky 23-year-old. I come and fight for my place.
And what were your first impressions of the club and the team that was there at the time? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was the club compared to Bolton. It was vast. Yeah, and some great players. I know it was the end of the career of a few like Billy Hughes, etc. Dick Malone, I got on with great. He was daft as a brush like me, so we were okay. But there's some cracking players. Obviously Bobby Kerr. But it was some really good players coming through. Jeff Clark was another good centre half. He was there at big club. Took me chance, and Bob put me in the side straight away. First game, Villa at home.
As I was looking back through the newspaper reports, I think you got chucked into a reserve game against Doncaster, then you had a friendly at Motherwell, and then Aston Villa at Roker Park made your debut. And it turns out to be Bob Stokoe's last game.
It did, yeah. And I thought, It's unfortunate. I think he was wanted to leave before. I just got that impression he wasn't. He'd done what he wanted, and he'd moved on. But the first, I think it was 7 games. If you check back, obviously it was 2 points for a win. Then I think the first 7 games I played for Sunderland, we didn't score, and we had 2 0-0 draws, lost the other 5 or 4, and then the 7th or 8th game we scored, but we lost 4-1 at Ipswich. So I thought, geez, I've come from a club like fighting for promotion again at Bolton, and we finished up. Obviously, Bolton went up that year, and Sunderland went down. And I thought, geez, I'm not having much luck here.
Yeah, yeah. It was some start. I was at that. I was at your debut game. I always remember that Villa team as well. It was the nucleus of the team that went on to be so successful at the end of that decade as well. They had some great players in the team. It was a cracking game that day. I think there were a number of games we weren't winning games, but we were in games for quite a lot of the time. It just seemed to be closing games out, even for draws. But it must have been some start for you. Because I thought it was 9 games without without a win.
Hold on, because you're selling yourself short here, Barry. So
Go on.
So after the Villa game, got beat 1-0 at home off Villa, got beat 2-0 away at QPR, and it was Ian McFarlane that took over.
That's right.
The charge by
Caretaker.
But in the next game, you beat Coventry 2-1. You had a 3-3 draw away at Manchester United and a 2-1 win over Spurs. But then Jimmy Adamson comes in, I think, doesn't he? And we go on a horrendous run where we can't score. We can't score for Toffee. I think in Adamson's first 9 games, we didn't score at all.
Yeah.
That's when that's what I was probably thinking. When Adamson came in. But I thought Jimmy was good. He was probably the top 3 managers in my career that I played under.
Yeah,
very astute manager.
Yeah. So
very good.
What was he good at? What was his strength as a manager?
He just he didn't. He wasn't a rant and raver either, like Jimmy Armfield, but knew the game inside out, and he what things were wrong, he put right. Over a period of time, and hence when he put Gary Rowell in, Sean Elliott, Kevin Arnott, that's when he turned the club round. Those lads played out the skin. I think we finished up 4 consecutive games. This is the old grey matter here. We beat West Brom at home 6-1. Brian Robson scored on his debut for West Brom, 6-1. We beat West Ham 6-0, Middlesbrough 4-0, and West Brom away 3-2.
Brilliant.
Well, this is one of Kelvin's favourite periods of supporting Sunderland, because you've gone from those 9 games without a goal, having this goal fest, haven't you, Kelvin? And you've talked about these games before, but these are games that you loved, didn't you?
Oh, as a fan, it was one of my favourite periods supporting Sunderland. It sounds bizarre because of the way it all finished, but it was fantastic. And fair play, your point about Jimmy Adamson, he had some faith in bringing young players into the first team setup, didn't he? He brought some good lads in, because apart from the Sean Elliott and Gary Rowell and Kevin Arnott, players like Mickey Henderson, Tim Gilbert, they got to go in that season as well. He was good for that, and yet always felt like our crowd never quite took to Jimmy Adamson. For whatever reason, it seemed odd to me, because he was an Ashington boy, wasn't he? I always wondered what he would be like to have as your manager, an Ashington lad. So I don't know. I don't know what it was about our crowd and him. But it was a fantastic period. That from front to back, though, the young lads came in, and I always thought, you mentioned Jeff Clark before there. He was a big favourite of mine at that time. I always thought he was a lovely surprise after Dave Watson left. Him coming in, he had big shoes to fill, and boy, he did it like. So he was great, and fantastic period that to be watching the team, even though it ended in tears and failure on the last day at your club, Everton.
My team, my favourite team. Yeah. Well,
Hey,
yeah.
could you not have had a word with him, Barry? And
No, I wish I could, but yeah, I think Bob Latchford scored with the back header, I think, that day. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but
well beat that.
going back to Jeff Clark, he reminded me of later on Alan Hansen. He was a footballing centre half with Jeff. He wasn't. You never see Jeff with an over the top tackle, or he won the ball fairly, and he was good in the air as well. But he could play. You could have played Jeff in midfield. You could have played him right hand side midfield, anywhere. He was a footballer, not a as you say, a stopper like Big Sam. Yeah. He was some player, Jeff.
I hate these lads that are good at everything. He was a good-looking lad as well, Jeff, wasn't he?
I don't know. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a good lad as well. He was a good lad.
Yeah.
Now, before we go on to that game at Goodison Park, obviously we want to talk about that. I've always been curious about how Jimmy Montgomery was with you, and how long he was there until he actually left the club, Barry. What was your relationship like with Monty?
I think it wasn't Jim's relationship with me. It was me with him. I was coming as like I've said, a cocky 23-year-old with 100 and odd games under my belt. Knew I was good, not being big-headed, knew I was good, and I'd come to take his place. I mean, when I go up on the ex-players table at Sunderland, when Jim runs that, and we go round to the different parts of the club, and I say that. I said, I came here, and I said I was horrible to Jim. I said, we're good mates now, but I wanted Jim's place. And that's, quite frankly, that's exactly what I wanted, and that's what happened. And you do get it's like my situation at Bolton. Your time's up when you get your boots thrown at you. And Jim must have known his time's up when Stokoe signs me and puts me straight in.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So he knows, when they say goalkeepers are thick, but we know when time's up. And on that subject, we saying about goalkeepers are thick, we didn't head the ball, did we?
That's very true.
But I think,
fling yourself into some positions, didn't you? Goalkeepers weren't as protected as they are now.
No, I enjoyed the physical contact, mate.
Yeah,
I used to love running into them, But
I never noticed that bit.
I had a bit of a do with Joe Jordan one day at Roker. I come out for a ball and he come behind me and smashed me from the back, and he come looking at me with his teeth, no teeth in. And I said, Joe, next time, why don't you be a bit braver and come in front? Because I said, I'll knock you out. And that was the game. Don't know if you remember, we were beating United 1-0 with a minute to go, and they got a penalty and Joe took it. And I thought, he's going to blast this. So I dived to my right. So I'm horizontal, and it hit me left foot and looped over the bar. We finished up beating them 1-0 that day.
Brilliant.
I think it might have been the time that United went down. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No doubt you'll check on that.
No, I'll have it. Look, but I want to go back to Goodison Park, because this is a game that people still bear grudges about and hurts deeply, doesn't it? So for people who don't know, we went to Goodison Park later on. It was the last game of the season, wasn't it? And if we got a draw, we'd have been safe. We were 1-0 down and going into the last minute. I think you say Bob Latchford had scored early on, but Bruce Rioch had got a late goal to make it 2-0 to Everton. You come off the field and you know there's still a chance of staying up, because if there's a winner in the Coventry game versus Bristol City, then
Correct.
we're safe. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Barry. What happens as you're trudging off the field after getting beat at Goodison Park?
Well, we thought, we've still a chance if either the teams win, but they didn't kick off till late, did they?
No, and then they announced, whilst you were walking off, they announced the score at Highfield Road.
Yeah, Jimmy Hill delayed the game by 15 minutes, and they obviously got news of the score at Goodison Park. So if it was a draw, they both stayed up. So where was the ball? The ball was in midfield up for most of the game, wasn't it? And that's why the Sunderland fans always hated Jimmy Hill
And
for
what
that
was it like
reason.
in the dressing room, Barry, when you
Oh,
got in the dressing room? Were you listening, you have it on the radio, I presume, or were you getting score updates from somewhere, or what was going on?
we'd heard that it was a 15-minute delay from the start, so you know something's wrong there, and you smell a rat. And we were that disappointed. We knew what the outcome was going to be. You could if I had a mobile phone in those days, I'd have phoned me bookie and put £1,000 on a draw in that Coventry Bristol City game.
Yeah.
You've battled. We're finishing up third of the season gone. Looked like no hopers. Then we looked, after all those games together, we won when Jimmy put the young kids in, and plenty of hope. Then to be let down by something like that, which is it's not football, is it? It's politics. They deliberately started the game late, and you know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
I was at that game that night, and it's the only time I've ever cried at a football match, Barry. I'm sorry to say. And I never went back. I never went back to Everton until the recent FA Cup tie that we played against them. I couldn't face going. I just thought I'm just going to stay away from there. Too many bad memories. But one thing that. And I think it was probably accentuated by the run that we'd been on. It was so thrilling. I think we only lost 2 games from playing Bristol, that 1-0 win against Bristol coming into the last game of the season. It was like championship winning form that we were in. It was fantastic. But I know going into that game, I always wondered that night. Tony Towers didn't play that night. And I don't know that he'd had an injury, or it was quite a shock amongst the crowd that he wasn't playing in that game that night. Why didn't he play? Do you have any memory of that?
Unfortunately, no, I don't. I remember, he was part of the team that has got us the points, but I can't remember why.
I can't remember why.
No.
It just seemed an odd one.
No, it's a puzzling one, even when you look
know.
back, isn't it? Because he'd been scoring goals in the lead up to it, been winning games, and then he was on the bench with an unused sub that night. But yeah,
we'd gone from a team with no confidence to a team thinking we're going to go out and win, which and that's what happened during the season. We were that disappointed. We thought go to Everton. There was no, obviously there are nerves before you start, but once we got out, there was no nerves. We thought we can win this game, and we could have done.
That confidence transferred to the fans as well. That's what we thought. We were going to. It was amazing to go from games thinking how many are we going to get beat by. The speed at which we moved from how many are we going to get beat by to how many will we win by this week. It was like, wow, it was brilliant. It was still one of my favorite periods. That was fantastic. Team, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in teams where you go 1-0 down after 10 minutes and you go, right, we've lost. But I've been in other teams, you go 1-0 down after 10 minutes and you go, right, that's fine. We'll come back from this.
Yeah.
And you invariably did when the confidence was high.
Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant to watch that period, Barry. Brilliant to watch the lot of yous playing. A
It,
privilege to
it,
watch that.
it, it was good. It was good football, though. We under Jimmy, we played good football. We didn't belt it forward. We played we played from back to front. You know,
Yeah,
midfield, through midfield. You no good putting three good midfield players in that we had, and missing them out straight
yeah,
to forwards. We play through them. I mean, Kevin Arnott was unbelievable. He had a spell where I think in this lad could play for England, no problem. He
yeah,
was just, and he had a bit of a knew exactly where Gary Rowell was going to be and where they had a bit of a sense for the two of them, and they
yeah.
played well. He made a lot of goals for Gary. Did Kevin
He
Arnott,
did. Yeah, he was right on
and
the. You're right on his radar. Yeah, yeah,
and Gary was another Pop Robson for me. Knew
yeah,
knew where the back of the net was without even looking. You know,
yeah, yeah.
he was some finisher. I hope you're going to ask me about the. Hope you're going to ask me about the 4-1 at St James's Park.
Oh, don't you worry about that, Barry. Don't you worry about that. But there is a game I want to ask you about before that. So obviously 77-78, we've got relegated. We finished sixth. Ironically, Bolton finished top and win the league, don't they? And
Thank you.
we had some good games. Again, Peter Reid and Neil Watmore, as you've mentioned a couple of times. I think he scored in both games. Really scored in one of the games against us that season. But there's one game that sticks out a few months into the 78-79 season. That's Burnley at Turf Moor, the Battle of Turf Moor.
Yeah.
Down to 9 men at half time. What's that dressing room like at half time?
Well, not good. I think Joe Bolton was one who got sent off, wasn't he?
And Mick Henderson.
Yeah.
The end. So there's your two fullbacks gone. We're thinking, geez, and I think we just told to go out and just roll your sleeves and just battle. And to be fair, we did. I think was it 0-0?
It was 0-0 at half time, and then we won 2-1.
Did we?
There you go.
I thought that
was fantastic.
I thought that was the. Oh no, that was there was a cup replay, wasn't there?
Yeah, yeah,
Against Burnley, because I'd played at home against after the draw at Burnley, we'd played Oldham at home, and Sean Elliott slid in and I had a big gash on me knee, and I didn't play the replay. Little Ian Watson played the replay against Burnley, and then I played the week after that. Yeah.
That Burnley game was earlier in the season, and the two fullbacks were sent off just before half time, and I always wondered who organised it. Who was it in the dressing room that said, "This is what we're going to do, lads"? Because I'd heard that Jimmy Adamson was so outraged at what had happened, and it being his former club, that he just slammed the door or something. He poked his head in the door, shouted something, and slammed the door. But I don't know whether that was true or not. And then I'm thinking, wait, who organised it? If Adamson wasn't in the dressing room to say this is how we're gonna play it. It was. I was at that game.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
I think if there was any slamming of the door, it would have been Dave Merrington.
Yeah.
He was volatile. He was.
Yeah.
Jimmy was the quiet one.
Right.
I remember playing at Middlesbrough, and we come in at half time, and Dave Merrington had a right go at Colin Waldron. In fact, he chucked a glass at him that was on the side, and he smashed against the wall. Jimmy Adamson sent him home. He got him out of the dressing room, put him in a taxi, and sent him back to Sunderland. So he was and he was a late and the ironic thing was he was a lay preacher. David Merrington, wasn't he? I thought, he could be in training. He could. He was a hard centre half though, Dave, in his day, I believe. He played for Burnley, didn't he, Dave? So, yeah. Oh, he was. He was. Jim used to let him get on with it in the training, and you just watch
Yeah.
Jimmy. Jimmy would take it all in, just watch, and then he got me in one day and said, What's changed with you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I watched you at Bolton." He said, "You come out for every cross, never drop one. Now you don't come for them." And I thought, well, right. I didn't think anything had changed, maybe I come out and dropped a few, but I don't know. But he was very, like I said, he didn't miss a thing, Jimmy Adamson.
Yeah.
Never missed a
Yeah.
thing.
So how much of a surprise was it, Barry, when Adamson goes to Leeds? Because that seemed
Yeah,
to sort of come out of the blue a bit, didn't it?
yeah, big surprise, really. But I mean, there was a few obviously weren't disappointed. I don't think Bobby Kerr liked him, but I I thought he was good for the club, and he changed it round that season. And obviously, we narrowly missed out, but probably maybe he went to Leeds to be nearer to home, or thought it was a better club. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I think he was a big family man. So because he said he changed the bonus sheet to a lot better money, and he said I think we were on £50 a point when it was 2 points for a win. And he got us in. He said, "Right, lads," he said, "I'm tearing your bonus sheet up." And he couldn't offer us any less. You're not allowed to. He said, instead of £50 a point, we're now on £150 a point. You don't, he said, "And I'm going on holiday after the season. So you don't come into the office because I won't be there, and you're not getting any extra on your basic wage. Go and earn your money."
Yeah.
So that was the time as well. That was a time as well when he put the young kids in.
Yeah,
So
right.
we won 2 games in a week. It's 600 quid. I put that straight in my pension. That was a lot of money in 77,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but that's another shrewd way of saying they are go and earn your money. Go, I know money's, it is an incentive at times, but he was very shrewd for doing that.
Very good.
Didn't have to do it, Of
Well, but it's that
Mm.
management thing, isn't it? It's about
course
knowing
it
what's
is.
gonna motivate you and incentivize you to go and do
Yeah,
something different, and if
it
that's
might
what's needed to do something different, then it's
it might
worthwhile, isn't it?
motivate some players. I mean, the problem with me being a goalkeeper, although you've got to be positive coming for crosses and through balls, etc. Goalkeeping is a very negative game. You don't react till forwards do something. Where you can go and change the game as an outfield player.
Yeah.
In goal, you wait for things to come to you, and then you've got to be positive when the ball's in the box.
Mm. Mm. You make a mistake as well as a goalie, and
There's nowhere to hide,
you're
is there?
thrown in water, don't you?
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Hey, I never shouted at you, Barry.
No, right. I've heard. Yeah. I've heard that. I tell you a good story. I got invited back to Blackpool, and I did the half-time draw, and the one of the linesmen come to me and he said to me, no, it was a fourth official. He said the referee wants to see you in the changing room, in the referee's room. I thought, he can't do anything to me. I'm not playing anymore. I come in. He said, "Barry, how are you?" I said, "I'm very well." I said, "I'm a bit mystified about this." He said, "When you play for Sunderland, when there was an open end," he said, "somebody had a bad injury down the bottom end." He said, "You sat on the wall next to me. I was a lad of 12, 13, and I had a pasty. I was eating a pasty, and you said, 'Give us a bite.' And you took a bite of me pasty." Can you imagine doing that now with Pep Guardiola? He'd have you straight off, wouldn't he? He said, "You did. You took a bite of me pasty," he said, "and sat talking to me, whilst they attended to whoever was injured down the other end." Yeah. So
What sort of pasty was it?
very good. Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah,
there's
but
any pasties in Pep's diet sheet, mind.
No, there won't
Yeah,
be.
I don't think so. No.
And you guarantee if it was a pasty from Roker Park, it probably would have been cold. Anyway. Right, we will take another very short break there, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 4-1 win over Newcastle at St James's Park. We'll be back soon.
Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Unlike other AI, Slackbot lives in Slack. It understands you, your team, and your work, so you can ask it for help with anything.
Can I ask it to summarize client feedback?
Yes.
Can I ask it to find time for a meeting?
Absolutely.
Can I ask it to turn our meeting notes into a launch plan?
Sure.
Can I ask it to call me the boss?
Actually, you can.
The balls.
See how Slackbot can turn you into
the balls
at slack.com/meet-slackbot.
Welcome back to How We Are, the podcast. We've got Barry Siddall with us today. And Barry, we're going to take you back to, what was it, February 1979, St James's Park. You ventured north at the time. Billy Elliott's in charge now. Jimmy Adamson obviously departed. And Dave Merrington, I think, had a temporary spell in charge. And he followed Adamson to Leeds. Billy Elliott's taken over the reins on what turned out to be a temporary appointment. What do you remember about that period of time leading up to that game? And obviously, it must be fantastic memories to come away from St James's Park with a very convincing victory.
Oh, definitely. I think when Billy took over, I think we all knew it wasn't going to be a long term. I think he took a lot of advice off the likes of Mick Doherty, etc. So, but that day at Newcastle was fantastic. But to be fair, for probably 86 minutes, we outplayed them. We murdered them. Gary Rowell was on fire. I don't think they had a touch of the ball. We absolutely murdered them, and I felt sorry for him at the end. So with being an Evertonian, I let Pearson score at the end, being an ex-Everton player. So and I wasn't, and I didn't go down well with the Newcastle fans because there's pictures of me in the paper with my gloves on, with 4 fingers up on one hand and one on the other. So I got slaughtered by the Newcastle fans every time after that. But it was a day, it was a one-off where you go away, and sometimes in a derby when there's not much between the two teams, you're sometimes better off playing away because the fans can get onto the home players if it doesn't start well, and that's what happened. They didn't have a kick of the ball. What I remember the game, that they didn't have a kick of the ball.
Yeah.
Pretty good day, wasn't it, Kelvin?
That was a brilliant day. As a young laddie coming from Morpeth like I did, boy, did I have dined out on that day a few times. I tell you, but Barry's right. The Newcastle never got a kick, and I actually watched that game from the Gallagher end. I couldn't get a ticket for the Sunderland end, so living in Morpeth like I did, I always found it easier to get tickets for the Newcastle end, and I was on the Gallagher that day, and oh man, it was. I think we were about 20 minutes in, and the shouting and the moaning from the Newcastle fans because they couldn't get a touch. It was fantastic, fantastic performance that day. Your gloves would hardly have been dirty that day, Barry.
I don't think they went in the washing machine. No. It was. I could have been in the Gallagher end with you watching it. I think it was that. It was that easy.
You should have come up. I had a pasty, man.
Yeah, well, I would have had some. But I think that day, the mid, like I say, Kevin Arnott again. Did Mick Buckley play? Mick Buckley.
No, he wasn't playing. Oh man,
I know.
I'll tell you the team if you want.
Yeah,
Mickey Henderson, obviously yourself in goal. Barry, Mickey Henderson, Joe Bolton, Kevin Arnott, Jeff Clark, Sean Elliott, Gordon Chisholm, Wilf Rostron, Wayne Entwistle, who obviously got the other goal. Bob Lee and Gary Rowell, and Mick Doherty came on as sub for Kevin Arnott with 15 minutes.
Right.
Oh.
That's where I got Mick Doherty from with Elliott. I think he took a lot of advice off or asked for advice off Mick. Because Mick did take over after that for a while, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a good friend. I was good friends with Mick Doherty. He was, really nice lad, and did very well to carry on playing after the cruciate ligament injury he had at Burnley. You know, in this day and age, you can get it done in America, but then it was, most players didn't come back from it.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Clark got a cruciate ligament injury at Roker Park, and it wasn't the same player when he came back.
No,
if you remember that, he walked up. They wanted him, and Johnny Waters, the physio, was shouting him, go down when you're coming off, and he carried on for about 10 minutes, and that made it worse. And I don't think Jeff was the same player after that when he came back.
Yeah.
You just lose that. I think with that sort of injury, you lose that little bit. You lose that mobility around you over 2 yards, and Jeff needed that because that was his forte. You should get in front of attackers and nip the ball off it before he got to them. He was that good.
Yeah, you were right there. He was, and you compared him to Alan Hansen. Alan Hansen was like that, wasn't he? But Jeff Clark, he was great to watch in that way because I always felt he was on his feet as well, and he was always ready to play. He wasn't one of these thunderous centre halves that would upend the slide in and upend the player. And, he was always looking. Yeah.
And to be fair to Jeff, he didn't have, when you do running in training, he didn't have that pace, but he had pace over 3 yard route. He read the game quick, and where the ball was going, he was very good that way. So he prevented things from happening, basically. And we had good players, Bob Einmarsh was a solid player, Some good. We played with some good players at Bolton and Sunderland. Played with a lot of good players.
Mick Doherty was Jimmy Adamson's one of Jimmy Adamson's signing, was he? He always impressed me, Barry.
Yeah, he was. He's great. He used to say to me, when you come for a cross, he said, I'm already going out on the right for you to throw it to me. That's what the faith he had in me, And he was a feisty little devil. Was Mick as well for the size. He could put his foot in, But honest lad, gave you 100%. You knew what you got with him. Joe Bolton the same. Joe Bolton was the daftest player I've ever met.
Yeah,
he used to bring his whippet in for training, and he wouldn't. Joe wouldn't use anybody else's towel to dry himself, but he'd dry, because we used to get the hose in the bathroom, and we used to hose his whippet down. He'd whip it dry with his own towel, and then wipe himself dry after he'd done the whippet. But he wouldn't use our towels. He was a bugger. Another good story. Johnny Waters wore the white coat.
Yeah.
Well, he came in the dressing room. This is like to relieve. I think Jimmy Adamson sent him in, actually, because we were struggling at the time. And Dick Malone liked his greyhounds and racing. And he come in with a greyhound, did Johnny, and he went round number 11, 10 now, and then next to me is Dick Malone, and he went to Dick Malone, 6:35 tonight, Brough Park, trying trap 1, and went out. Yeah. So everybody's just so relaxed after that. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, there's some great stories. Jimmy Adamson again. Jimmy Adamson instigated that. He instigated one when we played Luton away. I was putting my boots on. I just happened to look up at the door before the game started, And who comes in? Eric Morecambe, because he was chairman of Luton. Eric Morecambe with his glasses on the side, as he did, and he walked round shaking everybody's hand. He went back to the door and he went, "Good luck, lads, next week," and shut the door. Jimmy had got him. I'm sure it was Jimmy had got him to come in to just relax the lads, you know. And I couldn't stop. Everybody couldn't stop laughing just looking at him with his glasses. He was that sort of comedian. You just did, didn't you?
Yeah.
He was so funny. So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, you would never have credited that as a fan, as a supporter at the time. You would never have credited that about Jimmy Adamson. We didn't. I don't think any of us appreciated that. That's what he was. What he was like. Fantastic story. That.
I think there was a couple of managers I played under. Jimmy was one. I think Ian Greaves is another. I didn't play long under Ian, but the sort of managers, when you're doing well, they keep the foot on your head. When you're doing bad, they do little things to relax you and arm round. And Jimmy was like that, you know. In other words, when you're doing well, you don't get too cocky. You know, keep your feet on the ground. And he was that sort of manager, you know.
Ah, brilliant story.
Very good.
Well, there's some cracking stories over the years.
Oh, well, that's what we're here for, Barry. We're here for the cracking stories, mate.
Yeah. You haven't mentioned you're not up to the career yet when you mentioned my best friend, Ken Knighton.
Yes, we'll get on to Ken soon. I want to come to a game at the end of that season. After we'd beaten Newcastle in February, we go on a really good run. We challenged them for promotion. Play Sheffield United at home. We beat them 6-2. And if we'd beaten them by a 4-goal margin, we'd go top of the league on goal difference. And you saved the last-minute penalty from a lad called Gary Hampson to preserve that 4-goal difference to send us to the top of the league. Obviously, we lose the next game at home to Cardiff. We win at Wrexham on the last day of the season, but results don't go our way and things don't quite work out. But that Sheffield United game, I think there was almost 30,000 in Roker Park on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It was a great great game. We scored in 6 at home. But and it does mean a lot to the fans to, you're top rather than second. And that, the penalty, I was unaware, the goal difference, but the penalty say when they come off, they're going, "Oh, great." So I said, "Well, it'd only been 6-3. Yeah, but that's kept us top. I didn't know, So
yeah.
I had a good record with penalties, to be fair. Over my career. I had a cracking record.
Yeah.
Probably
in that.
Yeah, we had the one at Newcastle in that cup.
Yeah,
it went to penalties, didn't it? With Ken Knighton was manager. I played for Bolton. I played for Bolton once at Luton, and I saved 3 penalties, all in the same half. Saved 2.
Wow.
John Ryan played for John Ryan played for Man United.
Yeah.
But the third one I saved came back out and somebody else put it in. So it's still a penalty save.
Yeah.
But it's a goal, So just guess right each time.
So what was your secret apart from guessing right, Barry? There must have been some tactics or techniques that you had.
Depends on the penalty taker. Say somebody who's right-footed is more of a crash bang wallop, I'd go to me right. If he's more of a midfield player, right-footed touch player, he's more likely to side foot it, and that will usually go to your left. That's what I used to do. And if somebody like Joe Rowell, my hero from Everton, who used to blast it down the middle, I'd stand a bit longer,
Yeah.
You didn't have your water bottle with all of the research printed off for you in those days, did you?
No. Yeah, everything's changed, hasn't it? The diet in the game, the warming up training, the warm down. If they said to us after the game, right, stay out and do a bit of a warm down. What? You must be joking. we were in the players' lounge 10 minutes after the game had finished. Yeah, it totally changed. Yeah, the old game. But you find now that there are more injuries, muscle injuries now than when I played.
Which is incredible, really, isn't it? Because the conditioning that people have, the physios, pitches.
Yeah, I mean, you look how many, especially hamstrings, how many hamstring injuries, the players get now. I mean, sometimes John Hawley was the best. Most of us we all had to get to the ground for like 10-2. I mean, then I'd get most of my gear on. He'd sit there with his suit on, reading a book, and at 10-3, 2:45, no kidding, he'd get changed, bang, straight out. Changed in 5 minutes, boots on out, no stretching, nothing. That's the way, that's the way he did it. And
different times, isn't it? Different times.
Never got a pulled muscle either.
Yeah.
So, end of that season, Ken Knighton takes over.
Who?
Your mate.
Yeah.
Not a fan?
Right, I'll tell you, Ken, and this is obviously it's my experience and my opinion. When he was coaching under Jimmy Adamson, fantastic, really top coach. Got on well with him, knows the game, very good coach. When he took over as manager, my impression was he thought he was Brian Clough. He was very fortunate to have Frank Clark with him. Frank, I think, calmed him down a bit and said, you can't do, blah, 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 in my opinion. And I had a big problem with him because when we went up back into the top flight, little Stan Cummins came to me and said, Barry, can I have some advice off you? I said, of course you can, lad. What? I'm the coach. I've been offered, this is the end of the season, I've been offered £100 increase on my wage. What do you think? I went, bloody take it. So, and I'd found out that the first team lads had all got £100 increase, except guess who? Me. Because at that time he brought Chris Turner in.
Yeah.
And as you said before, Jim knew he was on his way out when I came. I knew I was going to struggle because Ken got Chris from his old club, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I smelt a rat. I wasn't playing badly. So I thought, has he brought Chris in for competition, or is he going to put him in the side? And he put him straight in. So end of that season, I didn't get the £100 increase. So we were away on tour the next season, and think we went to Switzerland. And he said to us, he got us all down, and he said, "This is my squad for the season. I believe in you lads." Blah blah blah. So I went to see him afterwards, and I said to him, "How can you put me in that same context?" Because I said, "You can give me £100 rise and not me." Anyway, next morning, Frank knocked on the bedroom door and said, "The gaffer says, there's your plane ticket. Bugger off back." This is Frank. To be fair, love Frank. Got on well with him. He said to me, "These are Ken's words, not mine. Bugger off back to Sunderland." So I went back. Come in next day for training. Mick Docker's taking the training. He got me and he said, "Barry, I've got some bad news for you. You can't train with anybody." I said, "Well, that's great, Mick being a goalkeeper, innit?" So, and then Chris broke his jaw one night game, if you remember. And we're playing Southampton at the weekend. So Frank Clark come to me, says, "Chris has just broke his jaw." Yeah, I thought it was bad. He said, "We're leaving for Southampton tomorrow morning. Bring your kit." And I wasn't under contract. And I said to Frank, I said, "We got on great." I said, "But with respect, you can go and tell Ken Knighton I'm not going." So anyway, I got a phone call next morning. "Bring your stuff, come to the club. We've got a deal for you." So come upstairs and Ken said, "I'm not going to give you £100 rise on your wage, but I'll give you £100 appearance money." And I said, "That'll do." So I wasn't going to be stupid and not play for the club, but I deserved it. I deserved it. I played half the games in promotion.
Yeah.
So I believe that it was personal why he didn't give me the £100 because I always stood up, you know. So I once said to him, and when I said anything to him, it was me and him. Maybe Frank was there as well, but not in front of any of the players. And I said to him, do you know, I said, Ken, I said, I speak the truth, what I believe is the truth. I said, you were a fantastic coach under Jimmy Adamson. When you took over as manager, I said, you changed. I said, I don't think you're a manager. And then I said something I regretted. I said, in fact, you couldn't manage Tesco. And I thought, I've said the wrong thing here, you know. Anyway, so he said, you better walk out the office now before I fine you. So I could look at Frank, and Frank was actually smirking. Because he did have a sense of humour, Frank, as well. I said, you couldn't even manage Tesco or Aldi or whatever it was, you know. Well, I don't think Aldi was there then, was it? So I always put my foot in it. Sam Allardyce, if you read Sam Allardyce's book, he said, this is when I got sent home from Switzerland. He said, Barry opened his mouth again and got sent home. But I couldn't, things would fester if I didn't get them out and say, you know, that was the way I was, you know, you can't change that, you know. But I never said it in front of the players when he was there, you know.
Aye.
Yeah.
It always seems a strange appointment when you look back on it, doesn't it? Because the club were linked to so many different managers throughout that summer. Well, actually, since Adamson left, and they were linked with big names and big names and big names. It almost seems as if they got to a point where they had to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
Ken Knighton was the person who was still there, so that he ended up with the job. But it must have been a strange one for the players to be around.
So it's not only. I mean, in Ken's defence, he did well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they got promotion, so he could turn around and say that. But for me, it would have been better Frank managing and Ken number 2.
Yeah.
Right.
And Ken taking the training more than Frank. You know that because Frank Clark been under Brian Clough. You know he learnt a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't think Frank wanted the manager's job. I think he was quite happy being in.
He went on to have a pretty good managerial career, didn't he? He managed Forest and Leighton Orient and other people he was in charge of.
He'd obviously changed after that, but I don't think Ken managed anybody after that, did he?
No, he didn't.
Not even Tesco. Yeah, they turned him down.
Another game I wanted to ask you about, the famous game at the end of that. It must have been the end of that season. And Mick Doherty's in charge, and you go to Anfield needing to win to stay up.
Yeah,
this game.
That's some
brilliant,
faith, isn't it?
We got there and we thought, oh dear, and then we looked at their side and Bob Paisley picked a proper side, and then there's something about that game. It was Stan Cummins scored early on, did about quarter of an hour or something, and I thought this is going to be a long bloody 75 minutes. This, you know, and then I'm not saying they weren't trying Liverpool, but it wasn't as though it was a cup final for them.
Yeah.
And then with about quarter of an hour to go, he brought 2 big names off. Was it 2 subs then, or
would have been 1? I think
1. He brought. I don't know. He brought off anyway. He brought this young kid on. I don't even know who he was. You could tell he was fighting for a contract. This young kid. He was running. He was all over the place. We're thinking anyway. We finish at 1-0, and then we come in. There's a knock on the door. Bob Paisley comes in with a crate of champagne, and he puts it down. He says, "Well done, lads. We'd sooner come up to Roker Park than go down to play Norwich away." So that was, I thought, a way of saying that champagne was already there. He was hoping that we'd get a result and stay up, which you know, and that bore out what I thought during the game. They don't look as though that they're on top notch here.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's always
I'm trying
a
to think.
good fella, Bob Paisley. Lad that came on as sub for Liverpool was a lad called Colin Russell. Well,
Yeah.
I've never, must admit, that's a new name for me.
Yeah, he went, where did he go after?
Doncaster and Stoke, he
did. He was
Sunderland for.
Yeah, he was definitely playing. The way he run round, he was definitely playing for a contract at Anfield. Colin Russell, yeah, I remember him playing for Stoke, yeah, because I had a spell at Stoke, yeah.
That must have been a nice victory for an Everton fan, Barry, at Liverpool. Was it? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, definitely. It was. I think that was the only time he ever beat Liverpool. We beat Everton in the cup. We beat them at Roker Park in the cup.
Yeah.
But I was unfortunate when, I know I'm going ahead of time here, when I was at Port Vale, after getting a free transfer from Sunderland, I went to Stoke on loan, and my first match for Stoke on loan in the top flight was Liverpool away. Then I went to Man City on loan, and my first match was Liverpool away. we lost both of them 2-0, you know.
Yeah, right. It's funny how things work out like that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, exactly. But to be fair, I'd gone from like 3rd division for Port Vale, 1st division at Stoke.
Yeah.
And then Stoke got relegated. I went from 2nd division at Stoke to top flight at Man City on loan, you know. So I must have done something right. But I always thought my time at Sunderland wasn't. It was too premature. I left.
Yeah.
But that wasn't down to me. That was a Welshman, Alan Durban.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to Alan Durban in a brief second, but I want to ask, because he had a bit of a spell in America, didn't you? Vancouver Whitecaps.
I did.
When you read about that period, a number of players went over from the 1st division, didn't they, to go and play in America during the summer. What was the story there?
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Vancouver, the loveliest place, to live.
Yeah.
I would love to live there. I had a proposal from, the reason I went out was David Harvey was goalkeeper at the time at Vancouver. Johnny Giles manager, Peter Lorimer first team coach, Nobby Stiles, who's Johnny Giles' brother-in-law, was coaching, and David Harvey, he got an infection, and he took tablets, and he said not to drink with the tablets. He only had a pint, and he went asleep at the wheel and crashed the car, and I thought he had something either jaw or neck injury. So Tony Waiters was upstairs running the club, and I played for England youth team. Tony was manager, so that's the reason he got me out there. And like you say, there was a lot of players, because the first game we played was at Seattle, and which is a local derby in terms of 2 hours away. And in the same in Seattle's team was Sean Elliott and Stan Cummins.
Yeah.
Alan Hudson, who I went on to play with at Stoke. Roy Greaves from Bolton. So there's 4. The big tall lad who played for Derby County, Davis, his second name.
Roger Davis.
Roger Davis was up front. So there's 5 players I'd played against during the seat or with.
Yeah.
And in our side was unbelievable. Peter Lorimer, Alan Taylor, who scored 2 goals in the cup final for West Ham.
Yeah.
Peter Beardsley. Carl Valentine from Oldham. Roger Kenyon from Everton. There's it was like playing in England.
Yeah.
It was, when you went down to play teams further south, some teams were predominantly South American, but ours, Vancouver and Seattle, were English, mostly English players. But it was a brilliant 4 months, and we played Minnesota, who were rubbish. We beat them 6-2, and he knew scored 2 for Minnesota.
Who's that?
I'll give you the initial GB.
George Best?
Yep.
There you go.
He was. He was. We played Minnesota away. There must have been 9,000 watching. You think that's not right with George Best playing. That's the club wasn't. Some clubs weren't. They hadn't sort of like got into the football, or soccer as they say then. But George Best that day, it was just him. That was it. The lads were going, we just doubled up on him, but he still scored too. He was fantastic.
So how did that work? Were you technically on loan from Sunderland, or were you?
Yeah, it was
what you wanted during that summer.
It was a loan for 4 months tops, but but Sunderland couldn't have me back in that period. So if Chris had got injured, they couldn't claim me back. It was basically a loan. It was basically a loan. What they did to get round it, the loan, Vancouver signed me for say £50,000 with a clause in Sunderland will sign me back for £50,000 in 4 months.
Right. Yeah.
That's how they worked it. Yeah.
So I think you missed the start of the following season because you're still over there. Alan Durban's come in, and then you're fighting again for your place with Chris Turner, I think, aren't you?
Yeah. We played quite not far off half the games that season. And to be fair, I'll go on record now and say me and Chris together, we shared the room together away from home. There was no problem with me and Chris. I still see him now. I see him at golf dues, and and unfortunately saw him at he was at Gary Rowell's funeral at Burnley a couple of months back as well. But me and Chris had no problem. We were good mates, to be fair, and we just I used to say, like, your bloody dad as well, bloody Ken Knighton from your old club. No wonder you're bloody in the side. he just laughed. We sat, sit up in bed watching on a Friday night away from home. You'll be in tomorrow with your dad in charge, and he just laughed, Chris. Yeah. Well, we were good mates. No, we had no problem at all. Yeah.
Going to say at the time as a supporter, to have 2 quality goalkeepers like yourself, Barry, and Chris Turner, it was like seventh heaven. You just to know that whoever was in goal, 2 very different kinds of keepers. I thought you were
correct. Yeah, but before you go on, it might be seventh heaven for you. It wasn't for me. Sat in the stand. I didn't mind being sat in the stand at home, but away from home was totally different. Yeah. When you're travelling down to London from Sunderland and you're not playing, only if Chris is ill in the night or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not good. It's not good that. And he took me down deliberately, did bloody Knighton, I know.
Yeah.
It's not like today when you're on the bench at least, is it? And you got a chance of getting on if there's an injury or a sending off or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the way the game is now, exactly. And you find now, I can't believe in my day. I mean, I've twisted my ankle in training on Tuesday, strapped up and played on Saturday for Bolton. Now they get a little bit of a twinge. Look at Pope at Newcastle. He gets a twinge and he's coming off.
Yeah,
because you can do that now with the sub keepers. I wouldn't, if I'd had a twinge now, I wouldn't have put my hand up because I know that they bring you off because you've got a fit keeper on the bench. I'd have carried on playing.
Yeah,
it's soft. It's too soft now.
Aye, yeah.
So Alan Durban came in that summer.
Yeah,
like Ali McCoist arrived. You had Nick Pickering and Barry Venison and people like that coming through.
Yeah.
Was that Alan Durban an upgrade on Ken Knighton or not too much?
Not particularly.
Not for you?
No. He knew the game as well, but my opinion, better coach than he would be manager.
Yeah.
I don't think. Right. Yeah. I think a lot of players think it's happened during the years, and Bobby Charlton, Brian Kidd, great players, never made it as managers.
Yeah.
Some have it in them. some don't. And then you've got school teachers who have become great managers, never played the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how it happens like that. Some can coach, some can't coach and manage. And I don't think Alan Durban was. I would say he was a bad manager, but I don't. It wasn't a bonus or a plus for the club for him to manage. I don't think.
Right.
And you still played quite a lot in that season. And I think you and Chris Turner pretty much played half the games each.
Yeah, when I came back from Vancouver, he put me in at Arsenal. I think he put me back. He put me back in. So a strange fella as well. But there you go. You just you know you just get on with it, and it's all you can do. And then he gave me a free transfer, and I met up with him. I was coaching at Lincoln. I was taking the goalkeepers at Lincoln for Sam Ellis, who was my manager at Blackpool, and we went to play Derby County, where he'd gone back to as coaching. And he come to me after all those years and said, "I'm sorry." I said, "What are you sorry for? Giving you a free." He said, "You know, you dropped down 3 divisions." I went, "I just don't understand why he said that to me." I didn't go on. I didn't go any further into it. Was he saying, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let you go. You should have stayed at Sunderland," or "I'm sorry that you finished up going 3 divisions down"? You know, I just couldn't understand that comment. You know, Ken Knighton wouldn't have said that. I know he wouldn't.
No.
He wouldn't even have took me on. You know, but anyway, that's what he. But had that mad John McGrath at Port Vale. Oh my God, he was my sort of manager. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
he was brilliant. I'll just say this one at Port Vale because we had a good side. We were up at Christmas. We didn't win the league. We should have done. We were up at Christmas. We had a great side, and old Ernie Moss from centre forward from Chesterfield.
Yeah.
Bob Newton was up front with him from Huddersfield. He was a hard bugger. And we had a lad right back, good player, but he was part-time. He was a teacher in Chesterfield, so Ernie Moss knew him. So first meeting, we sat there, and it's John McGrath's talk about this, and Colin Tart says, "I disagree with your boss." Oh, Ernie Moss went, "Oh, for God's sake," he said, "this is going to be half an hour." And it was half an hour because Colin was an English teacher and he was very articulate, obviously, and John was very volatile, and he couldn't get the best of Colin, word-wise and all this. And he'd come out with these words, Colin Tart. What the hell's that? And anyway, in the end, after half an hour, you could see John McGrath getting redder and redder. And he said, "Do you know something, Tarty?" He said, "Trying to get sense out of you. He's trying to nail blancmange to the ceiling." He said to John Rudge, "Get him out training." So he sent us out training. He didn't come out, John McGrath, that day either. Oh, that's funny. We just sat there. We were just dying to laugh. Brilliant.
Now, as I say, you went to Port Vale, you went on loan to Stoke, and you came back to Roker Park with Stoke, and Dave Hodgson scored a goal, and I think Sunderland won 1-0.
Yeah.
And I remember you came back with Blackpool as well.
I did, yeah.
87-88 season.
Yeah. And then you brought a lot of fans down to Blackpool, and I think the lad who's had a bad accident
John McPhail.
A year or so ago, he scored a header from a corner and scored a penalty 2-0. He beat us.
He scored 16 goals from centre half that season, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
A lot of them
because I remember coming out second half because at Blackpool we got changed behind the goal with the dressing rooms, and I went down to the bottom end, the big open end with the Sunderland fans, and I got a fantastic reception.
Yeah,
it was really, really good. Yeah, to be fair, I do want to go back and do the halftime draw. It's great. It does. That's what me and Jim sat one day. He said, "You missed the game." I went, "No." I said, "I do now. They're coming out with that music." He said, "So do I." It does it.
Yeah.
You want to get out and play.
Yeah.
The hairs. That the music they play when they come down the tunnel.
Yeah.
The hairs on your neck stand up, and then
Yeah.
the kick off.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
And do you still keep in touch with many people who?
That
played
was
with
great
us
at
when
Blackpool.
Yeah. It was a good. He was a good player, McPhail. Yeah, he was a good centre half. Yeah, strong lad.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. How's he doing now? Have you heard? Is he?
I've seen a few pictures of people like Gordon Armstrong and Gary Bennett was with him and had visited him, and they've done all sorts of stuff to his accommodation and to his house to make sure he can kind of get around the place. But I'm not too sure what the latest update is on his actual health. No.
Okay. Yeah. So I met him again when I've been up to a few golf dues over the years. Played at, I think I met him last time at Billingham.
Yeah.
Which I'm going up in 2 weeks' time as well on a Friday to play there. So yeah, sad.
Barry, I had a friend. He's not with us any longer, but he was a great golfer and Sunderland fan. And he tells me that you once got a hole in one at was it
South Shields?
South Shields course, yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
This is another good story. True story. South Shields, half of the land's owned by the church. As you go through the wall, there's a gap in the wall, back 9. Well, 9 holes, and they own that. So priests and that, they get concession, they just play the course. I'm playing in the club championship on the Sunday, so I think I was off about 4 handicap at the time. And before training, I used to get up first light and go and play some holes. So you play a downhill par 3, then you go through the gap and play the last few holes. Coming through that gap at that time in the morning is a little priest. I hole in one. He waits for me to come down. He said to me, "Do you know something, son?" He said, "I'm the only one to witness this, so I expect a couple of nips of whiskey behind the bar when I get in. Otherwise, I don't think there's a hole in one."
Yeah.
So I left the nip in anyway. When I saw him again in the clubhouse, every time I saw him, I bought him another one. I sat with him, and he went. And the ironic thing was, I don't know what club I hit, maybe 6 iron down that hill. 3 weeks later, in a competition, I hit the same club and I got another hole in one.
Never. Right.
Yeah, on the same hole. Yeah.
Oh man, I thought my mate was just spinning me one.
No, but thank goodness the priest wasn't coming through. Yeah, I had a hole in one. I've had 7 altogether, so I've been very lucky. Very lucky. Yeah.
Very good.
There's got to be a bit of skill involved in that. I think 7
No,
holes in one.
I'm not. I've never been modest. There's a lot of skill. No, no, you hit the golf shot. It's a good shot, but then you do depend on a little bit of a bounce and what have you. But
that's right.
Yeah.
And present day stuff, Barry. Have you seen much of Sunderland this season?
Just on the telly. I don't. The only games I watch now are really Sunderland and Everton. I don't tend to watch a lot of football. But I've watched a few. I'm very impressed. Very impressed the way they've gone on to start the season. My lad backed them at 33 to his Sunderland supporter. Backed him at 33-1 start the season to finish in the top 10. Now, I told him to cash out because I said to him, they will have a time where they'll have a dip in form because they're still playing on the momentum of the previous season. And you tend to do that, even though you go a higher level. You watch clubs who come down, Leicester, they go down again because they're still used to losing. Teams who go up are used to winning. So even though you're playing in a better standard, you still got that confidence. And I said, cash out. I don't think they'll finish in the top 10, but they've done what I think was a good achievement, is to stay up.
Yeah, it was all looking good until Friday night, wasn't it? But I'm sure it'll all turn around again soon.
It was just, ironically, could have been 2-0 up. And then it was just every time, it was just like the Red Sea parting. It was every time they went forward, they looked like scoring, Notts Forest. And they were, Sunderland defensively, excuse me, were not the same team that I've seen at home.
No.
They were totally inadequate. And even the keeper who's been brilliant, he looked, I won't say nervous, but he didn't look himself. Just whether it snowballed from the defence struggling. I know the first goal was unfortunate, hitting him on the head and going in. But to be fair, they took the foot off the pedal. Notts Forest, it could have been 8 or 9 if they'd have kept going. They were just happy 4-0, but they weren't. They were definitely not the same side.
Now I was going to ask you about your view on Robin Roofs, who's the Sunderland goalkeeper. And obviously, Friday night aside, he's had a marvelous season, really, hasn't he? For somebody who hasn't played much football, but coming to the Premier League for his first season, he's looked the part.
Yeah, very impressed with him. Never seen him before. I mean, I've seen keepers. I said to my mate, who's a Leeds fan, he got this keeper in. I watched him first game he played. I said, he won't be in long. Why? I said, his presence. What do you mean presence? I said, he doesn't look a keeper. I said, he doesn't act like a keeper. He doesn't position himself like one. 2 games later, he's out, never played again. But this lad, he looks, the biggest thing I'm impressed with him, not the saves he makes, he's very good. He's athletic. He's got a good range, got good reach. What impresses me most, he's like Gordon Banks. He gets himself in line with the ball. He moves his feet to get in line with the ball.
Yeah.
Where you see a lot of keepers, Peter Shilton, and you think back to Shilton, how many saves, and Ray Clements, how many saves they're horizontal, where Banks would just get in line and tip it over the bar. Sunderland keeper reminds me of Banks that way. Uses his feet to get in line, and very good up until the other night, distributor of the ball.
Yeah,
but keepers are told to play that way out the back. It's going to fall down once or twice. Don't care how good a keeper you are.
Well, that's exactly right. It's a strange development in the game, isn't it, where the keepers are being asked to do that all the time. It adds a completely different dimension to what keepers traditionally had to do, because you've now almost got to be as good as the outfield players, as well as an exceptionally good goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's why the Arsenal keepers. That's why the Arsenal keeper is probably the best in the league for me.
Yeah,
he's brilliant at ball at his feet.
Yeah.
You've still got that thing going on though when the keepers are doing that. If that ball's going out to a centre half or a defensive midfielder, they've got room to make a mistake. But if the keeper makes a mistake, is they're playing the ball out, it's a goal. It's a risky thing. You really need to be good at what you're doing, I think, if you're playing that kind of game.
You do.
Well, I think with keepers, ball comes from, should be told, okay, you want us to play it short, but play the way you're facing. Don't try any tricks on the ball, which some do. They lose the ball,
Yeah.
But you're playing balls into midfield blind as well, and then the midfield player has one touch, and it, like the other night, it goes straight to one of their players.
How would you have coped with that, Barry?
I'd have loved it.
Yeah,
I used to play up front. Give you another story. We're playing Tower Lord away pre-season. We played them for put a bit of money in their coffers, and I'm Alan Durban's manager. I'm on the bench, and Colin West's up front with Pop Robson. After 10 minutes, 10 minutes, Alan Durban turns to me and says, "Get an outfield shirt on." He goes, "Westy, come off. Go and play up front with Pop Robson," he said to me. So, unknown to me, when I come off, when I went on, Alan Durban said to Westy, "Sit down there and watch what the positions Barry takes up." It just happened.
Right.
2 minutes into I'd come on, I'm at near post, goes down the left, think Barry Dunn had it, and Pop Robson said, "Switch." So I went to the far post, little fullback. Barry Dunn crossed it. I went across the fullback, headed it, Pop Robson 6-yard goal. And we did it again 10 minutes later. He brought me off, put Westy back on. So you can imagine the lads going to Westy, come and sit with Ian, watch Barry play, and Westy, he didn't speak to me for weeks, Westy. But that's just, and that was decent management because he'd watch me play up front in 5-a-sides and that, and I could play. And young kid, Westy was only 17, that's what, and playing up front with Pop Robson, it's easy, he's been around, played everywhere, and if you're giving him 6-yard out, it's going to be very close to going in, if not in, so good days.
Brilliant.
I wish I'd been up Towlow that day.
Yeah, well, yeah. He never brought me on in goal though. He did. He thought, "I'm not playing him in goal. I'll play him up front."
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Well, it's a really good place to wrap this up, Barry. But just finally, when you look back on your time at Sunderland, what's the overriding sort of sentiment, emotion thing that you think of when you look back at your time at Roker Park?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the fans. Fans were great to me. I went through a bad time for a few games, and they get onto you, which is they're paying the money. But overall, the fans are great to me. When I see them now, when I go back up, they're just the same. Club was massive. Wish I'd have had the chance to stay longer, but I would have stayed and fought for my place with Chris. I didn't want to leave, but that's forced on me. But I've only happy memories up there, really. I like going back, watching the games, playing golf. I play on the ex-players golf team now and again when it's close. Like Billingham's not too bad. We go and play in Stan Anderson's memorial at Doncaster Golf Club every year. That's a good day out.
Yeah.
I stay over up somewhere and might maybe go racing next day to Market Racing but fun. I can't say. I mean, massive club and happy memories. I think out of my career, the first 6 years at Bolton and 6 at Sunderland, that's 12, and that's probably my happiest times in the game. Then I moved around. I think Blackpool was the other club I spent most time at, which I enjoyed there with Sam Ellis, good manager. But my favourite manager, without any doubt, is Cyril Knowles at Hartlepool.
Yeah.
I joined them after getting paid up. We're top of the league at Stockport. I'll give you this. Have you got time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Top of the league at Stockport. He got me on a free transfer from Blackpool, and I got a bad infection throat infection at Christmas. Anyway, got me back in. Got the physio, Roger Wilde actually, who played for Sunderland. Go on a run. Yeah. Ran 100-yard and collapsed. Took me to the club doctor. Club doctor phoned Danny Begara up and said, "What the hell you got Harry back in for? He should be in hospital, never mind bloody running." Anyway, long story short, another week, come back in, one training session, played in one of those cups, whatever, Vanguard Cups, and at Halifax, had an absolute nightmare because I wasn't fit and I was knackered. He got me in next morning and he said, "I can't have that performance from you." I said, "No, can I?" I said, "I wasn't fit enough to play." "That's an excuse," he says. You can have a free transfer if you want." I said, "You still owe me $7,000 signing on fee. You're not having it." I said, "We'll soon that." Phone Gordon Taylor up. Within an hour, I've got me $7,000 and I've got a free transfer. And then Cyril Knowles phoned me up. He said, "We're bottom of the league, Barry. Will you come and..." He said, I said, "I'm doing some coaching." He said, "Well, when you're coaching at Burnley or whatever," he said, "just do a bit of training yourself there and come to the games. You don't have to come and train." I did go and train a couple of times at Hartlepool. First game, he come to me. I had 3 young lads in midfield. He wound them up somewhat rotten. And he come to me after giving them all the information. He said, "Come to me." He bent down, whispered in my ear. It was Scunthorpe first game. They're nearly top. He said, "I don't need to tell you how to play, do I?" I went, "No." Anyway, we beat Scunthorpe 1-0. We finished it when I left. He said to me, "Barry, we can't afford to keep you. We're mid-table now." He said, "Absolute pleasure having you in goal." He said, "You've been absolutely brilliant for us. Thank you very much." And I'm not saying he's a great manager because what he said to me, the way he went about it, when we were bottom of the league, there was no panic. But Pop Robson was his number 2.
Yeah.
So he was just the way he went about it. Knew the game inside out as well, and he got the right players. He got the right players fired up, and he got the other players just calm. And we, I think, at the first we beat even Burnley were down in that league. Then we beat Burnley, and the best was we play Stockport, don't we? Danny Bigada comes down. Guess what the score was? Hartlepool 5, Stockport 2. Have some of that. I was giving him that. I was going down the bench, going, dancing sideways like this. I was going to come off. And he was like, he's only like this, Danny Bigada. He's only about 5'3". He was wanting to hit me, and I'm thinking, he's trying to get out, and they're holding him back, and I'm dancing sideways like this. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Never. I was never one for holding back. No.
Well, where's the fun in that?
Anyway, they didn't go up. They didn't go up Hartlepool that year. So Stockport.
No, that's excellent stuff. Barry, thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're very welcome. I thought you were going to ask me about the Timmy Gilbert one when he set the fire alarm off at Cardiff.
I was, because I was going to say, people who are listening to this won't know this, but they might have seen a letter on the Roker Report website a few weeks ago, and it was one of Tim Gilbert's son's friends had written into us asking if anybody had memories of Tim Gilbert or bits out of the programme and stuff like that, because he was putting some stuff together for Tim's son's 40th birthday. And Barry, you kindly sent us an email to get in touch saying you'd like to share a memory of Tim Gilbert with the family, and you got in touch with us to help this lad put some stuff together. So from all of us, thank you very much for doing that. But I thought we'd go out with that story,
Oh, fantastic. I mean, Timmy, he was a great lad, a very underrated player. Like I've said early on in the podcast, you've got to be very lucky in this game, right place, right time. And I think Timmy didn't play as many games in his career as he deserved to. But the story was, we're away in Cardiff one Friday night for the game, and players have different ways of unwinding. Me and Mick Doherty used to take turns in bringing a bottle of wine. Well, Timmy, I'm in bed there, just watching the telly, and I've got a little glass of wine there. And next thing is, I didn't know Timmy had lit a cigarette up, and that was his way of just relaxing for the game. Well, the smoke alarm goes off. There's a knock on the door. Timmy's got the window open, hanging out the window, throwing his cigarette out, wafting the smoke out, and coming in. Is there a problem in here? We went, no. Well, the smoke alarm's gone off. Oh, it must be faulty. And that was Timmy, and he just had a smirk on. He had that silly little smirk on his face he used to have, just like Joe Bolton, very similar, And I think, to be fair, if Joe hadn't been at the club, although Timmy did play left side midfield, I think Timmy would have been made a good left back as well. But you had the mighty Joe Bolton. You certainly weren't going to replace him. But they were happy days. And when I learnt of Tim's passing at such a young age, it's sad when that happens. And I do look at. I've got loads of programs. I do look at old programs of the teams and how many have passed away on that. Rob Marsh, Mick Buckley. You're thinking. Good. It does. In a way, it's nice to look at them and remember them as not as players, but as people. Yeah. Because Rob Marsh used to cook. Can I come out golfing with you? I went, yeah. And he all he wanted to do was smash it 300 yard. It's not gone down the middle. I said, well, it won't if you smash it. You've got to just, But that, can you all, good days, great days.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fantastic memories, Barry.
The things that they're things that like you mentioned that the golf holding ones, you can't take them away from you.
Yeah.
You can take your health away from people. Your health can be taken away from you, but memories, they last. And
they're great stories. They're great stories for fans and supporters. Them to hear.
They're the ones that with no swearing words in. So there's plenty more. Yeah, all true stories.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on for an X-rated version of the podcast.
Yeah,
the day, Barry. But once again, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute
You're very welcome.
Privilege, and we really, really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. That 1 hour lasted 2 hours 10. that happened to me at the club's museum.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said to me, "Do you do after dinner speaking?" I went, "Well, I could do, but I don't." He said, "Will you? I've got a running club coming. Look around and have something to. Will you do a tour like the time at Sunderland?" I went, "Yeah." Bobby Kerr was there at the time, so he said it's only half an hour. I went, right on. We've got a buffet after, so he's in the background after an hour and 20, and he's going. Brilliant.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what a privilege for me to spend time with you, Barry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Brilliant. It's been good. Enjoyed it.
Excellent.
It's enjoyed
We've
it.
enjoyed it, and that's the main thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to go and get a pasty out the fridge now for me lunch.
Listen, I'm going to have a pasty for my lunch in honour of that story.
Exactly.
Excellent.
I think we're all going to go for pasties now. So while we do that,
that's it.
We'll say goodbye to you all. So thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the brilliant stories from the fantastic Barry Siddall. We really appreciate it again, Barry. We will be back tomorrow on How We Are the Podcast. I think we've got Q&A lined up for tomorrow. But until then, it is goodbye from us.
Few things are truly timeless, because to last, you can't stand still. That's the beauty of Michigan. You can feel it everywhere, like a fresh breeze on a riverfront stroll, or how the nightlife hums with electricity, like an old friend with new stories to tell. So let the excitement bring you back and bring you together, season after season, in pure Michigan. Find your season at michigan.org.